Alright, so Google just dropped the Pixel 7a. This is the company's sort of affordable mid-range smartphone. It costs $499, and there are a couple of significant changes to the device this year. However, I wouldn't say that it is as much of a flagship killer as it once was. Here's why. So I'm going to spend most of this video talking about all the new features of the smartphone, but I do want to touch on the actual design of the Pixel 7a series first. This, for the most part, looks just like the Pixel 6a and the Pixel 7. You basically can't tell the difference between this and those devices unless you know what colors are new with this year's phone. You still get the typical black and white phones, but you also now get this sort of sea blue color, which looks really nice. It's sort of like a sky blue, light blue color. And there's also a coral color, which is a bit of an orange red. Definitely more polarizing than the other pastel colors that Pixel sells. So the rest of the design is mostly the same. The bezels are a bit thicker than the regular Pixel 7, and that's fine by me. They're symmetrical, at least. There is one very minor issue that I have with the Pixel 7a design, and it's the fact that the back glass doesn't seamlessly blend into the edges of the phone. You will feel a bit of that friction from holding onto the sides. So let's talk about the display of the smartphone, because that's probably the most significant change compared to previous Pixel A series devices. It's small, it's got a 6.1-inch display. This is now a 90 Hz refresh rate versus 60 Hz. Google doesn't give you that option to set it as permanently 90 Hz. You could set it as adaptive refresh rate, which basically means that it will toggle between 60 Hz and 90 Hz depending on what task you're doing or if your battery is running low. And for the most part, I think the actual user experience of the software and just browsing through apps and swiping around is much better. The next big change is the Google Tensor G2 chip that's inside this device. With Tensor G2, you're basically getting enhancements to the efficiency of the smartphone, you're getting improvements to the camera performance, you're getting features like Magic Eraser and Photo Unblur, features that just require a bit more post-processing and computational services. Which leads me to the third improvement of the phone, which is the cameras. You now have a 64 megapixel main lens and a 13 megapixel ultra wide lens. They're both very good. They record 4K 60 frames per second. And from what I'm seeing from photo samples, you're getting very good HDR performance. If you're recording in broad daylight, especially going into the summer season, you could sort of expect the sun to be beaming down on your subjects, and this phone really does a good job of balancing that sort of foreground from the background, and you're not going to notice too much overexposure. Colors are very natural looking. I wouldn't say they're as poppy as something that you'd get from a Samsung phone, but if you want to keep things as natural looking as possible, and if you want to preserve the color and the detail, then the Pixel 7a gets the job done. Really, the shining feature of this Pixel camera experience is on the front. In my opinion, I think an ultra-wide front-facing camera is the most underrated camera feature there is, and you get a really good one here. This is a 13 megapixel front camera with a 95-degree field of view, which basically means that if you're taking a group selfie, you could get more people in frame without needing to sort of stretch your arm out too much. That's something that's not as prevalent on other phones, but on the Pixel 7a, they get it just right. Okay, so the last sort of major feature that you should know about with the Pixel 7a is wireless charging. The Pixel A series has never really had wireless charging, but this is the first one that supports it. How awesome is that? The actual charging is capped at 7.5 watts, which is not quick by any means. You shouldn't expect to use wireless charging and have a 0 to 100% phone within an hour. But if your lifestyle has already adapted to a wireless charging sort of ecosystem, then yeah, having this feature is great, and you don't have to worry about finding a USB-C cable or one that charges the Pixel 7a optimally. Alright, so the first thing that I would change about the Pixel 7a is the battery size. This right now is a 4,385 milliamp battery, which is smaller than the Pixel 6a's 4410. Numbers aside, this phone now has a more powerful chipset. You've got the Tensor G2, and you also have the 90Hz display, which means that battery life on this phone is just not as good as what I got from the Pixel 6a, and oddly enough, even the Pixel 7. I thought the Pixel 7 battery life was really good. I have been testing this phone both in 90Hz mode and 60Hz mode, and I think 60Hz mode does render a bit more battery and endurance. I'm getting about 3.5 hours with that turned on, but at that point, I would almost say that you're better off getting a Pixel 6a, which has that similar 60Hz panel, and for the most part, the exact software experience. At $499, I think the pricing strategy around the Pixel lineup this year is a bit confusing. It's $100 less than the Pixel 7 and possibly the Pixel 8, and it's also $150 more than the Pixel 6a, which I talked about just now. At that price, $349, I think the Pixel 6a is actually the better value Android phone that you'd buy this year. If you need features like the 90Hz display and the wireless charging, then yeah, the Pixel 7a is worth a look. Otherwise, I would either go down to the Pixel 6a and save yourself the $150, or I would buy the Pixel 7 for a discount, which we frequently see it drop to around that $499 price tag. Alright, so that is a wrap of the Google Pixel 7a review. I hope you guys got some good insights, learned a bit more about the phone. For all things Google, Android, latest innovations, make sure you check out zdnet.com.